Hello and welcome to Swipe. Coming up, future food, the new technology that could change what you put on your plate. Alibaba's treasures weave the lowdown on what could be one of the biggest IPOs in America's history. Techs from your tech, get ready because the machines are talking back. And from rolling balls to deadly assassins, we'll get your heart racing in this week's Games Review. They say you are what you eat, but what if what you eat has had a helping hand from technology? A growing number of tech startups are emerging in the lucrative future food sector. It can certainly be a place to experiment, from manipulating what we eat at a molecular scale to growing test tube burgers. But will we really be able to stomach what's to come? Sky's Katie Spencer's been finding out.
Cultural influences have played the biggest part in changing our diets to date.
Fish cake, chips and baked beans.
But in the next decade, advances in engineering are likely to have the biggest influence over what we put on our plate. And there's a simple reason why millions of pounds are being invested in the sector. It all comes down to food security. If, as predicted, the world's population reaches 9.1 billion by 2050, it's estimated that world food production will need to rise by 70%, and food production in the developing world will need to double.
That's not even factoring in overcoming rising energy costs, the loss of farmland we'll probably have, or climate change. So finding ways of avoiding wasting what we eat have never been more important.
Advances in nanotechnology could be key. By studying the minuscule structures of what we eat, scientists at Leatherhead Food Research are already learning new ways to improve on our meals.
Nanotechnology is all about making ingredients smaller. And if you can make ingredients smaller, you can make them more functional, you can make them go a little bit further. So for example, if you make salt crystals smaller, then you need less salt in your food.
A number of startups are now looking beyond what we fill up on to focus on what we throw away. Plastic packaging could be a thing of the past if we could eat what's on the outside.
From a packaging point of view, the edible kind of packaging just makes lots of sense and has definitely the scalability and the sustainability that we need.
Experts argue it's naive to think we'll be able to feed the world in the coming years using traditional agricultural practices. With the production of animal protein comes the production of greenhouse gases. Scientists in the Netherlands think lab-grown burgers could be an alternative, but is it really the answer?
Before we get to the stage of needing that, we've got to deal with the fact that 50% of the food that we produce is wasted, while 70% of the people in the world at any given time don't have enough food to eat. I mean, we're wasting so much stuff, we could fix the waste.
Using ground-up insects and a 3D printer, academics at London's South Bank University think they've come up with an alternative food source.
Insects seem the perfect match in terms of environmental impact. You know, they are at the moment the most sustainable protein you can find.
Turning the readily available food source into a high-protein flour, the project is about showing how using 3D technology, insects can be both a printable and palatable new food source.
Every kitchen will have, next to the microwave maybe and the toaster, your 3D printer and the ability to perhaps program what you're going to print for tea. And we don't see any reason why insects can't be part of that menu in the future.
Insects might not be to everyone's taste, but it's certainly one idea that's on the menu when it comes to finding new food sources in the future.
It's actually okay. It's not too bad.
Katie Spencer, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, how 3D printing could help us restore our ancient relics. But first, this week, Alibaba confirmed plans for a public sale of shares in the company over in the States. It's a pretty big deal as the Chinese online powerhouse makes more money than Amazon and eBay combined. But in case you're wondering what all the fuss is about, Tom Cheshire has all you need to know.
Alibaba has filed for an IPO in New York. It could be the biggest IPO in history, and it's a huge deal in the tech world. Alibaba is a retail company that doesn't actually sell anything. Some people have called it the Amazon of China. It's closer to a mix between Amazon and eBay. And it's got a huge range of products on it. You can buy lawnmowers, Prada, handbags, everything you want. The categories include automobiles, chemicals, metallurgy, medical devices, electronic products. It's like Amazon if Amazon sold absolutely everything. Last year, 230 million people sold 146 billion pounds worth of goods through the site. Alibaba takes a 3% cut, which led to profits of 1.8 billion pounds last year. Analysts are saying the company could be worth anything from 70 billion pounds, maybe up to 140 billion pounds when it IPOs later this year. One of the big winners in the Alibaba IPO could actually be Yahoo, the American tech company. It paid around 600 million pounds for a 40% stake in the company back in 2005. It sold some of that off in 2012 for around 4 billion pounds, but its remaining share in the company could be worth up to 15 billion pounds.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, tech talks back. The fridge that could tell you how many beers you've got left. But first, 3D printing technology has been helping to restore an ancient statue in southwest China. It's yet another novel use of the technology, as Sky's Matt Steele's been finding out.
A precious find, but until now, restorers in the grottos of Datsu have had their work cut out bringing the thousand hands goddess back to life. She has over 1,000 arms with one eye carved into each palm, so piecing this 800-year-old Buddhist statue back together has been a struggle. But thanks to 3D printing, it's a puzzle which is now closer to being solved. With the data recorded, a slightly smaller replica of the original has been built to act as a guide.
This white Buddha image you see is the 3D model we made using three-dimensional laser scanning. It's going to be an important reference source for us to use when we're restoring the main statue.
Ensuring the statue's many fingers are in the right place will take time, but the £1 million restoration project is likely to be much quicker and more accurate than if restorers worked by sight alone. As we come to understand more about the 3D technology, it's certainly proving to have some unexpected uses. Matt Steele, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, the race is on, a game that'll get your heart racing in this week's review. But first, here's a roundup of anything you might have missed over the last few days. Microsoft's co-founder Bill Gates caused a PR nightmare by suggesting the firm might consider selling their Xbox division. The billionaire told Fox Business he would absolutely support his CEO if he decided to sell Xbox. But Microsoft said the comments were simply reflective of Gates' support for the new boss. Most of us are guilty of sometimes being a little bit too attached to our laptops, but one man in the US has taken things to another level altogether. He wants to marry his. Chris Sevier has gone to court after being told he couldn't tie the knot with his MacBook. He's arguing he's being discriminated against after his request for a marriage license in Utah was turned down. London cabbies have been getting hot under the collar about the pickup service Uber. For a fee, the app connects users with a background-checked private driver. But black cab drivers aren't happy. They're threatening to bring gridlock to the capital in June and go to court over the vehicle owners who use the smartphone app to calculate fares. The Licensed Taxi Drivers Association argues it's the equivalent of private vehicles being fitted with taxi meters, which is illegal. It's official, antivirus is dead, and that's from one of the companies that created it. Symantec, which developed anti-hacking software 25 years ago, says antivirus only catches around 44% of attacks. They say the focus should be on detecting and responding instead of protecting. And finally, if you're short on friends, LG has the answer. How about texting your washing machine or even your fridge? Its new home chat system is designed to let you communicate with your appliances via a smartphone. The unusual part is that they can even reply back. At the moment, you can only use it in South Korea, though, but it is expected to eventually be rolled out to the rest of the world. It's not the first, though, as Samsung has its own rival smart home service. Here at Swipe, we love a good smartphone game, and when it comes to finding the super addictive ones you won't want to put down, Guy Cocker is a pro. From impossible rolling balls to deadly assassins, he's been taking us through this week's big releases.
And Then It Rained is a really relaxing video game experience that's based around organising towers to catch rain droplets. And because of that, it's very, very soothing. There's something about the noise of rain and catching rain droplets that's very, very soothing and relaxing. I was playing this game on iPhone, it's also on iPad, and the idea is that you shift around these 7 coloured towers to catch rain droplets. The rain droplets, as you progress, get faster and faster, so you've got to move them around, and you can also move lots of them at the same time and try and line them up so that loads of different rain droplets fall into the right buckets at the right time. Like I say, it's quite an abstract, colourful, out there experience. There's not too much to it, but there's something very, very addictive and very, very soothing and calming when you're on a tube journey or you're in a car and you're catching these rain droplets. The audio soundtrack is very, very it's very kind of enticing, very soothing, and it's not a particularly complex game, but it's one of those games that's only available on those sort of touchscreen devices. It works well on that platform, and it's fairly cheap, so check it out. Bicolor is a game that's on iPhone and iPad at the moment, and it's currently riding high in the iTunes charts. It's a very Apple-esque game, I would say, both in terms of its visuals and its gameplay. It's perfectly suited to a touchscreen interface, but it's also very stylishly put together, and it's a very simple concept. So the idea is you have a number of different numbers on screen, and you have to move them across the screen. They move 1 block at a time. So if you've got the number 5, you move it 5 times, and the idea is to change the colour of the screen so that it's all one colour, hence the name Bicolor. It starts bicoloured, you're supposed to get it to one colour. It gets more and more difficult as you progress, more and more numbers to jumble around, so there's a little bit of working out the right moves that you have to make before you do them, and a little bit of maths puzzles as well in there. It's a simple game to pick up and play, and it's really enjoyable, I think, if you're a fan of those number-based puzzles, and it also looks absolutely beautiful. Hitman Go is Square Enix's first take on the Hitman formula on mobile devices. So this has just been launched on iOS, so it's on iPhone and iPad. Now, the Hitman franchise is a very serious, very realistic stealth game in which you control a bald man and try and take out lots of different guards using the environments, or if you get desperate, a gun, but obviously that alerts other security guards. The iPhone version takes that idea, but in a much less realistic, much less violent way. It essentially turns it into a board game, and that sounds quite boring, but I think they've done a really, really good job of it. They've taken that Hitman idea of being stealthy and moving around and not alerting guards, and turned it into this very classy looking game, very kind of like board game-esque look and feel to it. So you have to move the Hitman character 1 space at a time and avoid the gaze of the guards, and then when you take them out, instead of garroting them in a very violent, spectacular fashion, you just knock them off the board. It's kind of like chess. So it's an interesting take on the Hitman franchise. It won't be for everyone. It might not even be for Hitman fans, but if you do like that sort of stealth gameplay and you like the look and feel of the game, I would definitely recommend it. Impossible Road is a game that's been out on iPhone for a little bit, but it's finally coming to Android, and this is a real Marmite game. You either love it or hate it. Initially, I didn't like it very much, but it is strangely addictive in a very punishing way. So the idea is you just get control of a ball, and this procedurally generated, so randomly generated road falls out in front of you, and the idea is to guide the ball along this road just by pressing left and right. Now, it's incredibly difficult even to make it past 1 or 2 gates, but either by accident or by design, you can control the ball and make it fall for a period of time and kind of cheat the game, if you will, and fall off the road and then rejoin the road. It's a difficult game to describe. It's very, very difficult, but if you time it right, you can jump lots and lots of gates and essentially cheat your way to massive scores. Now, I was having a debate with a load of game designers about this game because I didn't think it was very, very good. I thought it was too punishing and too annoying, but loads of game designers that I know really, really enjoyed it and really got a lot out of it. So like I say, it's a game that you'll either love or hate, and it's good to see those sorts of games. It's not really for me, but if you're a fan of those really punishing games that kind of punish you again and again, but you can't just put them down, then this one might be for you.
Thanks, Guy. That's it for this week. Remember, you can catch up with the breaking tech stories all week on Sky News for iPad, our smartphone app, and of course, skynews.com. See you next time.